The ENGWE P275st is the nicest electric bike I've tried in a while, and it might be one of the best choices for great city commuting experience in 2024. Given the awesome price, are there too many corners cut, and how would it feel in the long run? Let's inspect. Hey, welcome, great to meet you. I'm Michael, and as usual here on the channel we expect some cool and interesting tech. And I think this year something interesting is happening with Chinese e-bikes because I feel that they're evolving. What I'm currently riding is the P275st by the company ENGWE, which up until now was mostly producing, bikes with big frames, super fat tires, and pretty funky specs on the motors, which are unfortunately not converting into too good real-life performance. And this here looks casual, like a nice frame, not too big tires, city-oriented construction, still very remarkable specifications of the battery, and finally a mid-drive, and they're keeping the pretty good value in terms of price. So this video is going to be about a thorough inspection of the P275st, exposing all the strong and the weak sides and figuring out whether it is worth the money. Let's dive into it. The starting price of the bike is rather good. ENGWE are once again focusing on amazing range, but this time bringing in better quality parts. Still, despite all these efforts, it might be a challenge to win against well-established brands such as Cube, because the similarly looking new Ride Hybrid is only a few $100s more, but comes with a better pack. So let me show you what is to be done at the beginning if you decide to buy the bike. By the way, if you're up to doing so, check the video description for the best price you can get it at. The box is kind of heavy, and given the size, if you have a buddy to help you with the assembling task, it would be great. The bike arrives well protected and should be in mint condition given the many layers of foam and precautions taken by ENGWE. As usual, it is easier if you open the box from the bottom and pull the cardboard up because it's much lighter than the bike itself. Then get a scissors or a knife and start to cut these cable ties loose. Be careful because you don't want to scratch the frame. Assembling this bike requires some technical skills, and if you have never mounted a front wheel or adjusted disc brakes, better bring this pack straight to the near bike shop. I usually go for mounting the handlebar first, and here it requires tightening 4 screws in total. Once it is installed, you have the ability to turn the bike upside down and mount the front wheel. One of the nuts was missing in my case, so I had to use one of these included with the protective gear. It's a surprise that ENGWE didn't add a quick release option. It is a non-foldable bike, so easy detaching of the front wheel makes good sense. Also, while usually the brakes are pre-adjusted, I did have to further tune the front one because there was some disc friction notable. The rest is rather easy. The fenders, the saddle with the seat post, the rear rack, the pedals, a bit of tire pumping, and the bike is ready to get you to some awesome places. This certainly is not among the easiest to set up e-bikes, and you should plan around an hour to make sure that you have comfortably enough time to adjust all the components. Speaking of components, here's how some of the most interesting parts sound like. There's the Ananda-made mid-drive motor with 70 Nm of torque and 5 pedal assisting modes. There's a torque sensor, a crazy big 19.2 Ah battery delivering close to 700 Wh, a 9-speed Shimano derailleur, Tektro-made hydraulic disc brakes, front and rear fenders, a rear rack, 27.5 by 2.6-inch tires, IPX6 water-resistant rating, colorful LED display, and weight is around 26 kilograms. Well, talking about the specs with e-bikes especially, you can always twist them in direction, making them sound really cool. I'm not trying to say that the specs here are bad, quite the opposite. It's just that most of these parts are not the highest grain of components, but finally ENGWE start to put some decent components from recognizable brands. For example, we have an upgrade with the rear derailleur, finally Shimano Altus, which is rather decent. We have a frame which looks nice, although the placement of the battery at the first sight is a bit weird, but given the weight and the size, the more I ride it, the more comfortable I feel with the place where it is positioned. I think among all the new things we find with the P275 is the mid-drive. This is a new kind of a motor coming from a company called Ananda. The model is M60 and has 75 Nm of torque. The other Pro model has a Bafang motor, which some people would actually expect to be even more reliable. I think it's still too early to talk about longevity, but what we can say for sure is that having a mid-drive gives you the most comfortable kind of support, and it feels the closest to riding a conventional bike, just this time you have a lot more power. One very important note though, when you shift gears, make sure that you're not pedal assisting, because that adds up to 75 Nm of torque, and you can imagine that the chain can actually break. Concerning the range, the overall performance, and a lot of other things that I figured out about this bike, it's time to do more testing. You will, of course, ask about the motor performance, and I'm ready with the answers. First of all, having a torque sensor is awesome. Responsiveness is much better, but unfortunately the operation of this one feels more like a cadence sensor because it delays the adjustments by around a second. Meaning that it's gonna take close to 1 entire second until the motor stops supporting you after you stop pedaling. On the other hand, acceleration feels great, and it is almost as good as the Bosch motor powering my mountain e-bike. In theory, you count on torque up to 70 Nm, but I still believe that this number is somewhat pumped up. Note that this time I'm comparing the P275st to other e-bikes with mid-drive, so if you want to know how it ranks against the rest of ENGWE's portfolio, this is in my opinion the smoothest and the best accelerating motor given its specifications. It's just 250 watts, but as I've stated many times before, efficiency is a lot more important, and here the Newton meters are what really matters. Being a not too popular model means that spare parts might be a challenge to find in case a repair is necessary. As for the battery performance, which is traditionally the topic, well, you're looking at ENGWE's range champion. I don't think the battery can last the promised 260 kilometers, at least not if I ride the bike the way I usually do. Hundreds, even 130 kilometers are very easy goal to accomplish though. The more you pedal, the more you extend the range. This bike doesn't support the throttle, meaning that I can't speak of pure electric mode range, but my results are based on minimum efforts supporting with my legs. This achievement is apparently perfect for city commuting. Furthermore, the battery is being locked, and at the same time, you can easily detach and recharge. And the bike can be used as a conventional bike without the battery as well. Comfort levels are okay, there's absolutely no suspension, it's only the fluffy tires to handle the bumps and the potholes. They do well, but I'd definitely avoid off-road areas if comfort is a priority. Not that the bike can't handle dirt and stuff, but given the type of the tires and the overall construction, it's not really the scope of the P275st. Good words about the saddle too. A brand easy to recognize, and although it's mechanical and not controlled via a lever, this dropper still counts. A few centimeters up and down in no time. I guess this is a must-have in most bikes. Pull it down when you're going downhill and max it out when you go up. The handlebar is also very comfy and it's good looking, kind of retro style. I like it a lot more than expected. Here we have the bell and the handles for the brakes. It's Tektro-hydraulic setup. I actually was expecting performance close to the golden standard for good cheap brakes, namely Shimano M200, but these are not as good. Some unpleasant noises. On the other hand, efficient braking, so it's much better than conventional disc brakes. Here's the tiny display with the info. You can see real-time speed and some motor details. Each of the pedal assistant modes has its own color, but the brightness is not good enough because even now, during the winter time, I kind of struggle to see the details. Oh, and be careful with the nut of the speedometer. It is attached to a spoke and might get loose after a while. So if your speedometer stops responding, you know what item has to be checked. If I may expand the drawbacks conversation, then I would note down the lack of power cut-off function of the brakes, meaning that you can pedal and brake at the same time. Avoid doing so, please. There is no smartphone app, there are no frame sizes, the bike is not comfortable for lifting, there is no throttle option which we somehow expect from Chinese-made bikes, and the price, it's not that far away from brands such as Cube and Specialized. I think this guy deserves a very high rating. It's not perfect, in no way, but given the price point and the features that it packs, I think it could be one of the perfect choices for a sub $2,000 electric bike right now in 2024 because of the excellent performance of the motor. You have a mid-drive here, because of the excellent battery range, because finally ENGWE provide a bike which is compliant with most countries' regulations and you can ride it safely without being concerned that somebody's gonna stop you and fine you. And at the same time, it looks good. You know, no crazy fat tires, no crazily heavily construction. It's true you don't have a front suspension, but given the thick size of these tires, I think you're going to be all right. Well, it will be great to hear from you. Comment down below, what do you think of the ENGWE P275st? And I really can't wait to see what's gonna come next in 2024 in terms of Chinese electric bikes. If you want to see what comes next on the channel, subscribe, give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and I'm Michael the Tech Mishka. Gonna see you in the next one. Bye.